David, I know someone who has represented your portion of Southern California as long as you have surely must have known Dick Clark.
Well, Candy, I mean, this is a very great shock to me, and I really, just as I was listening to AJ, and it's great to hear what an inspiration Dick was for so many people, but for me, he became a very close personal friend. I just had dinner with him about 10 days ago with Dick and his wife, Carrie. And, one important myth that needs to be shattered is it's true that in 2004, Dick Clark suffered a very serious stroke. But that man has been fighting so hard to recover. And, in fact, at dinner the other night, he reminded me that he is the world's oldest teenager. And, he said that to me just a couple of weeks ago. And so this guy... American Bandstand was a very appropriate name for the show that really was known all over the world because he was a patriotic American. He was somebody who I talked to him about government policy, and as AJ talked about the advice and counsel that he got from Dick Clark. Dick used to give me a lot of advice on television. He used to always tell me to straighten my necktie because he said that I had a crooked necktie. But he had this great sense of humor. We were at dinner the other night laughing so hard. And so I want to say that Dick Clark, even though he suffered a stroke, Candy, he was very, very healthy up until just the last week or so. And I've also got to say that Dick Clark is somebody who very much wanted to encourage young people, and he also was able to really blaze the trail in dealing with race relations in this country. And he and I had a number of discussions about that. He was the one who brought African Americans onto the forefront, onto the scene. He introduced them in the into the music world through his programs, and I think that was just great. And he gave me a lot of great advice, and I am going to miss his advice and counsel. And
David,
he was a great guy.
It's I can hear how much you're going to miss him in your voice, and it is amazing to me. And I want you to just hang on a second because I want to read you something and then get back to you. It's amazing to me how many people we've had on, yourself along with AJ, and now this statement from Ryan Seacrest. In which he said, "I am deeply saddened by the loss of my dear friend Dick Clark. He has truly been one of the greatest influences in my life." And it seems to be the theme that is coming through this day is how many people's lives he seemed to have influenced in major ways, including yours.
I will tell you, I was sitting with him when Ryan Seacrest called him right after they were together for New Year's Eve. And, there are a lot of people, a lot of things were written, and Dick debated whether or not he should continue to go on for the New Year's Eve programs. But let me tell you what happened. And a couple of years, over the last couple of years, he's told me, he said, I think that I'm not going to do it again this year. And what happened is, and it was mixed. It was mixed, Candy, because some people said, oh, gosh, why should Dick Clark, having suffered his stroke, continue to appear on television? But then he would get deluged by people who were stroke victims and other people who had infirmities, and they were such admirers of his fighting spirit because he really did have that. And so he anguished over whether or not to continue doing it. And at the end of the day, of course, he loved it. But at the same time, he knew that his continued diligence was providing inspiration to a lot of people who were going through facing infirmities themselves.
Yeah, there was something I thought both very brave about it and very happy about it. He always seemed happy when they would come to him. Sometimes his wife would appear in these later New Year's Eve times when he just did sort of cameo things, but he always seemed happy doing it.
Well, I will share with you and kind of clean it up one of the lines that was used, because his wonderful wife, Carrie, would kiss him at midnight, right? And one time she kissed him, and he whispered to her. And everyone said, "Oh, well, did Dick whisper to you? Oh, Carrie, I love you. I can't live without you. You're the most important thing in my life." And she said, "No." He whispered, "Get out of the shot. I work alone." And so I'm just saying that his sense of humor was, I mean, it has continued, and I've got lots and lots and lots of other great jokes that I can share. Up until just 2 weeks ago, when we had dinner of Dick Clark, and that's why he was an amazing guy. He was always very committed to paying his taxes. He always told me that he wanted to make sure that he paid his taxes and every penny of his taxes. He was a proud taxpayer because he believed in the United States of America. And the other thing I think that goes without saying, as people have seen it, I mean, he was an amazingly sharp businessman. While he suffered the stroke, his mind was so intact. I mean, I can tell you there are things that I missed that he immediately pointed out to me on more than a few occasions. And so I just want to say that the reason, and in fact, I just said last week, I said, people said, oh, yeah, well, Dick has had this stroke. I said, Dick is going to live to be 100 years old. I said, he went through therapy. He was constantly working to get better and get better. And so I just want to say that this guy was an amazing fighter, and I'm gonna miss him a lot.
I can hear that in your voice, David. Congressman David Dreier, thank you so much for your reflections this afternoon. We will have more coming up after this.